I made a decision about 18 months ago that now can see cost me about, I don't know, roughly 14 months of drag, slow, clunkiness in the business. Not a terrible one, not an obviously wrong one. What looked like a reasonable one at the moment. I made it really fast, sitting in the kitchen, probably Scarlett asking me about something, phone in my hand, reading something on the screen. And when I actually go back and look at it, really looked, with the benefit of it being in the rearview mirror, what I could see was I'd made a decade-scale decision at Snickers-bar speed with about 40% of what I actually needed to know to make it well. And having that limited information didn't mean it was wrong. It just meant it was out of order. And I could have made that decision really well. I want to show you how that happens because I can almost guarantee it's happening to you right now, somewhere in your business. And it doesn't really feel dramatic when it's happening. And that's the whole problem. In the 1960s, Walter Mischel sat children down at Stanford with a single marshmallow in front of them. And the deal was super simple. Eat it now or wait 15 minutes and get 2. You've probably seen the TED Talk or the videos of these kids doing it. What he then did, though, was he followed those kids over 40 years, more than 40 years, in fact. And the ones that waited and got the second marshmallow did better. Not marginally, measurably, consistently better across health, financials, stability, academic achievement, relationship. Not because they were more disciplined or more virtuous, because they had a strategy. These kids that grew into adults had learned somehow to make decisions from the future them rather than the present moment. They could hold what they actually wanted in 10 years in the same hand and what they wanted right now. Because the kids that ate the marshmallow immediately weren't weak. They just didn't have a filter. Nobody had said to them, what do you want in 15 minutes before deciding to do right now? The marshmallow research just isn't an argument for speed versus slowness. This isn't about the fact that one had patience enough to sit 15 minutes and wait and one didn't. We all know patience is not one of my virtues. It's an argument for a specific learnable decision-making skill. And this is the ability to make choices from the future rather than purely from the present pressure or the present situation. Those kids that built better lives are the ones who could hold that longer lens. And that's the whole thing. Now, if we hold that alongside the life you're actually running, where you're having to make hiring decisions in the car park and pricing decisions between school pickup and a client call, or positioning decisions at 9 p.m. when you have very little decision-making power left after everyone else's needs have been met, you're making decisions daily, significant ones, under a level of cognitive load and time compression that no mainstream business framework has ever accounted for. Not because you're disorganized, because you're running 2 enterprises simultaneously, a business and a family. And most of the advice in the market was built for someone just running one. My Snickers-bar decision in this framework is the one made without the longer lens. It satisfied my immediate craving for the Snickers-bar, the immediate pressure, but it cost you the decade. You taped client you knew wasn't right because that month was tight financially. You underprice because you can't risk the conversation about what you're really worth. You delay on the hire, on the new employee, the new contractor, because the investment feels too uncertain and the need feels too abstract. Until 6 months later, when you're drowning and you realize the cost of not hiring was more than the cost of hiring ever would have been. You're not making those calls because you lack any discipline. Not like me with the chocolate bar and eating the whole one instead of just one square. Like, that's a lack of discipline and willpower. You're making them because you don't have a filter calibrated to the life that you're actually trying to build yet. And that filter is the whole thing. We have an accelerator that provides exactly that filter. It's called Decade Decisions. And it's way more specific than most decision-making frameworks you've ever seen because it accounts for the full complexity of your operating reality as a tenacious integrator, as that woman who's tenacious in her care for her business, tenacious in her care for family, wants to seamlessly integrate the two of them together. In our Decade Decisions accelerator, it's a whole bucket full of tools that enable us to think about what we are creating and building in the moment through the lens of today and 10 years, today and 5 years, through our lens as a business owner and as a human being and what we're trying to build, through the lens that we need to have across what our business will look like alongside the parenting journey and the chapters that we've got. I think about it and I use the tools that are in there even when it comes to parenting. I think about the number of times people say, how do you get Scarlett to do insert things here at her age of 13? It looks like she still likes to hang out with you and she eats everything pretty much, not mushrooms. She doesn't have to eat mushrooms. And she helps around the house. I'm like, yep, when you're watching, not when she's home by herself. That's not fair. She's actually very great at those things. As a parent, you're always a bit rougher on them than everyone else. People look at the things that she does and say, like, how do I get those things? And in social situations, I bite my tongue because it's really hard to explain to people that the things that I've got with Scarlett at 13 were the decisions that we made when she was 3. The boundaries and the expectations and the way we communicated and the way we taught her about standards and expectations and emotions are what's showing up now when she's 13. It doesn't mean that she doesn't get to have emotions. It also doesn't mean that she gets to behave however she likes. Does that mean she's perfect? No, but it means that when all of us in this family have heightened emotions and we behave in a way that we know is not in alignment with the expectations in our family, then we own it. We say sorry, we apologize for it, and we move forward. And so I use these tools that I know are great in my business. I even use them in terms of my parenting. I'm using them in terms of my marriage. I'm using them in terms of relationships outside of my family, the ones that I really want to maintain, that I look at and think, who are these people that I want to have in my life 10 years from now? This Decade Decisions Accelerator really requires you to start thinking about, who do I want to be? Who do I want to embody? And what sort of life and business do I want to have in the future? Because without it, no framework ever accounts for the full complexity of our operating reality. There's so many chapters and seasons and school terms and hormonal cycles and significant changes of seasons of life and kids doing all of those same things and your partner doing those same things, and then your business going through growth periods and maintenance and contraction and shift and movement in the market. If you don't have an accelerator around these filters, these decade decisions that allows for all of that, then you end up making a decision like I did. Super, super quick. Ultimately, both moves were the right move. But had I done them the opposite way around than what I did in terms of investment, we would have moved significantly faster, used the investment significantly better. And all that was me solving from immediate pain rather than a long-term picture. Awful being human, having to go, I have this thing, and I didn't follow it. One of the things inside this Decade Decisions Accelerator that we have is called the 2 Horizon Principle. Before any significant decision, business or life, you run it through 2 lenses at the same time. Not one after the other, but at the same time. Because the decisions you're making don't ever exist in one domain. They exist in all of them all at once. We've got Horizon 1, which is right now. What is this decision costing me, giving me, or taking from me immediately? What does it mean that the next quarter or year look like if this goes right? What will it cost if it goes sideways in the most likely way? Because with every decision, I always say to people, we can always live with the upside in either of these horizons. In Horizon 1 or Horizon 2, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute, people can always live with the upside. If in this, what will happen in the immediateness of right now, we can always live with it going well. But we need to check in and go, if I make this call and it goes sideways in the worst possible way, can I live with the downside of this decision? Because sometimes decisions are super easy in the moment. It's if we do that and it goes badly, we'll be right where we are. Sometimes it's a decision, if we do this and it goes badly, we'll be backwards 2 years. That's the, can I live with that downside in Horizon 1? Horizon 1 is now. What does it cost me, give me, and take from me immediately? And I think about that now for the next 12 months. Horizon 2 is the decade. And if you can't think in 10 years, think 5, but think big picture. Here's where this is specific for people like you. Not just what does this build towards in the business in 10 years, but what does my business need to look like in 10 years for it to still be worth running? And alongside that, right next to it in the same frame, what does my family need from me in 10 years? Each of my children, where are they now? And where will they be in a decade? What does my presence, my financial position, my energy, my availability need to look like to actually be the mother I want to be and the woman I want to be, the partner you want to be if you've got an intimate partner, in that version of my life? A decision that clears Horizon 1, the right now, but means that Horizon 2, that long-term future, is degraded or less than or not moving in a positive way. It's like my Snickers-bar decision. Eating a Snickers-bar when I could go and get a fresh mango smoothie is convenient, easy, sweet and tasty, gives me a sugar rush in the moment. But we know the long-term horizon of that, if I keep eating the Snickers-bar, is not good. When I'm looking at an option and the decision clears Horizon 1, but makes Horizon 2 worse, or the same as where I am right now, because dear God, none of us want to be living the same life we're living today 10 years from now. There are bits we want to have better. We're just doing it right now. We're taking the first marshmallow and eating it now because the pressure is real and the future feels really abstract. A decision that is harder at Horizon 1, but very sound, architecturally sound for Horizon 2, that's the decade decision. And the woman who can tell the difference consistently is the woman who builds something that lasts. Here's a real life example with a client. She was worrying about putting prices up. And so I got her to stop asking, will raising prices lose me clients? And got her to start asking, what does staying at this price, and in her case, it was $100 an hour, what does staying at this price point cost my family in the long term, cost my son in the long term? If I stay at $100 an hour, what does that cost my family a decade from now? And so instead of pricing at $100 an hour, we looked at the results that she was getting, and she instead got a contract for $34,000, just like that. Now, that's not a mindset reframe. That's a structural cognitive tool. The question changes the answer. Or here's another example. You stop asking, can I afford to hire some admin support or another team member right now? And instead you start asking, what does not building this capacity, this team capacity, cost me in 10 years? In the business and in my life? And often the answer is that the cost of not hiring is significantly higher than the cost of hiring held over the full frame. But you cannot see that from the Horizon 1 question alone. And so the women in my world who get to that real deal, that easy flow in terms of their capacity, the true independence in terms of the enduring strength of their business, the cash overflow in terms of the rewarding returns, are not the women who worked any harder. They're capable of working harder. Like you and me, they're super capable, really able to hold so much. They are almost always the woman who learned to make decisions from the future, who stopped eating the marshmallow and started building the life that made the waiting worth it. That's not something you're born with. It's a learnable filter. And it starts with 2 questions that you have to run through simultaneously every time something lands in your inbox. The question is, what simple pricing change will give me the most cash in the next 90 days? I'm going to answer this as it's asked first, because the answer exists and it is useful, but then I want to show you something with it. The pricing change that releases the most cash fastest for most service-based businesses is either a retainer conversion. So taking existing transactional clients to some sort of recurring model, or a price increase to existing clients who've been on the same rate for far too long, because you probably, like lots of the women that I work with, haven't done a consistent, proper price increase over time. So you've got existing clients sitting on a long ago rate, which is probably costing your business more than you'd like to know. In the next 90 days, if you could take one of your services and places where you're already transacting with customers or clients and make that into some sort of reoccurring model where they're paying consistently over time, weekly, monthly for you, or a price increase to people that have been on the same rate for over a year. Both can be done like immediately without finding a single new client. I see you. I hear you. But Sarah, what if people leave me because I put prices up? But what if they say no? The truthful answer is there might be some. And in my experience of doing this in my own business and in hundreds of other women's businesses the last decade, very, very few leave. Very, very few move just because you've made a small price increase, because it will be small comparatively to what many, many companies do. Those changes can be quickly done for you right now in this quarter without finding a single new client. And I want you to think about the fuel companies. There's a really good example right now. When the oil goes up by the barrel, the fuel that you've got in the pump, they bought it a long time ago, not at the rate that the oil is right now. Every single time, though, there is news media about the oil rates going up, the pump prices will go up immediately. But they didn't buy it at that rate. They bought it at the old rate. But they can see that the market is prepared for a price increase, and so they just give it to them, and we just suck it up and take it. Now, when the oil price drops again significantly, tell me, how often have you seen the number go back down? Now, maybe I'm getting old and a little bit cynical, but they don't. They just chill out. Maybe it comes down a little bit slowly over time, but you can be sure that the price goes up immediately when that oil rate goes up, and it takes much, much longer to come down. You can talk to me all you like about people being price sensitive. The truthful answer is that bigger commodity-driven markets have done a great job for you of reminding people that prices need to go up. And they'll accept you not putting your prices up, but they probably won't push back too much on you putting your price up a little bit. That's the direct, straight down the answer in terms of what are the pricing changes you could do that would make a difference in the next 90 days. But before you do those things, we should be thinking about it through the two horizon filter. If you make a pricing change this quarter without running it through horizon 2, you might be eating the marshmallow. A quick price increase right now that temporarily improves your cash flow, but locks you into a positioning conversation you haven't had yet about who you want to be working with in 3 years, or what your offer, the service, the product actually needs to look like, what your business needs to generate to hit paid twice standards that we talked about in the last episode. That's a marshmallow decision wearing a cash improvement outfit. The question isn't just what pricing change gives me the most cash this quarter. The question is, what does my pricing need to look like in 10 years for my business to be worth the life I'm building around it? Oh, and that's a bigger question. And is the change I'm about to make moving towards that or making it harder to get there? For some of you, after you run that filter, the answer is still increase the prices this quarter. It's completely aligned. Do it. For others, when we start thinking about the two horizons, the question opens up something bigger that needs to be decided first. And the filter of using the two horizons tells you exactly which camp you're sitting in. This week, take one decision you've been sitting on, because unmade decisions are the heaviest ones. Run it through both the horizons simultaneously, right at the same time. Not one after the other, but what would happen if we ran them through both these horizon filters today? You take that decision, run it through horizon 1. What does this give me, cost me, or take right now? And then horizon 2, what does this build towards or close out in terms of options that I can't have in the 10-year vision of both my business and my family? And then just notice what changes when you hold both at once. Next episode is potentially the most practical I've done in a while. We're going into load and what you're actually carrying, who put it there, and the fairly radical idea that most of it was never yours in the first place. Till next time, stay Moxie.